we're gonna be launching Scotty on Thursday. So definitely just be lifting that up in prayer that those who are not already in Scotty be receptive to that. And Lead the Cause Chicago is kind of the first time we're really talking about Scotty publicly. Our gospel advancing site will have been completely redone to incorporate Scotty. So definitely some cool things coming at Chicago. And then live, we actually have 92 sites, which is super exciting. We've sold almost 800 reg, also exciting. So definitely just be keeping that in our prayers. We'd love to see at least 8 more sites come in here in the next couple of days, end of this week if possible. So lots of cool events that have the opportunity to launch us into the next stage of gospel advancing ministry. You guys know we've talked about the idea of a thriving gospel advancing ministry, and just to let you guys know, because we're going to be able to track those, our goal by the end of this calendar year is 500 thriving gospel advancing ministry. So you'll hear us be talking about that more and more. So, and that's kind of part of an email that I sent out as we're kind of talking about strategy for your regions. Kind of what's driving that is how can we get to 500 thriving gospel advancing ministries by December 31st, 2018. So, Mr. Poland, you come back from your coffee run yet?
Yeah, bro.
Awesome. You want to launch us out in a time of prayer?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll close this in a couple minutes.
Yeah, Father, we do thank you for your goodness. Thanks for another day. Thanks that we can be scattered around the world painting houses and do all kinds of stuff, and yet we can come together and focus on the things that really matter, focus on advancing the gospel. So, Lord, we do pray for the LTC registrations to come up, especially in Denver and in LA. But ultimately, Lord, we trust in you with all these things. So with this meeting and with our lives, I want you to have your way, God. Lead, guide, direct, and give us grace and boldness to follow well. Pray in Jesus' name. All God's people said, amen.
Amen.
Dear God, I want to pray, Lord, for the opportunities that we will have here soon, God. I pray that you would open up hearts and open up lives, Lord, to create another generation of gospel advancers. God, I pray for these students as they prepare to go to Lead the Cause. God, I pray that the distractions this year would be just absolutely non-existent in all 4 sites. God, I pray for Denver, Lord, God, I pray that you would bring our numbers up miraculously as we're preparing for there. Lord, in 1 month, this Sunday's the deadline for the regular registration. God, I cry out to you and I beg you, God, that we would see 100 people sign up today or tomorrow, God, that you would just do a mighty work here in Denver. Lord, I also pray for LA. I pray, Lord, for the team there as they're preparing. Lord, you would help them to put together the tools they need to continue to reach people there. God, I pray for Dare to Share and all the things that they're doing and achieving. God, I pray that you would help them to keep your love first and foremost. And Lord, you give them encouragement as they are preparing to launch big things like Scotty over the next few months. God, I love you and I thank you for loving us.
God, you are good and your faithful love endures forever. God, thank you that you are infinite, that your love knows no bounds, and that your forgiveness is limitless. God, it strikes me as we're praying for gospel advancing ministry in our nation and around the world, and the goal of 130,000 gospel advancing ministries by 2025, that there may actually be juniors and seniors in high school that will be at LTC this summer or live, that by 2025 will be new youth leaders, being that next wave of gospel advancing ministries, like Nathan just prayed, God. And I look forward to being a part of and watching how you advance your kingdom, God, how you continue to push back the darkness in this world and reveal your marvelous light to those who don't know you. God, we celebrate that the ministry that you've called us to is to call dead people to life. God, I pray for the relationships that each of us have as we are sharing the gospel personally, among family and friends. God, for the opportunities we have within our ministry to proclaim the gospel. But God, the opportunities we have to multiply this out, to train students, to train other leaders, to train others under our influence, to take up this banner of gospel advancing ministry. And so, Lord, we're humbled and grateful that you allow us to be a part of this mission with you. It's exciting to be on the front lines and the tip of the spear with seeking and pursuing 130,000 gospel advancing ministries, Lord. So we lift that up to you, and God, we just look forward to the ride and the thrill that you have ahead of us. In Jesus'
God, I just thank you for each of these men and for their commitment to being regional movement makers, God, for just their desire to see gospel advancing ministry thrive and spread throughout the churches in their area and around this country and around the world. God, I just pray for each of their ministries, God, that you have blessed them with. I just pray that you just grant them great favor. Pray for protection over them individually, for their priority and commitment to you, their love for you. God, for their families, God, would you protect them and their marriages, help them to be great husbands and great fathers in such a way that would honor and glorify you, and that would lead their families well. For Jesus, I just thank you for the time that we get together today. God, we're certainly missing our other brothers that are in this team and this tribe together. We pray that as several are on vacation, as Brian is planning out a massive summer camp for the summer, and as Gustavo is working, whatever the heck Aaron's doing. God, we just lift each of these men up to you and just ask that you go before each of them, God, to help them to be guided by your Spirit in all that they do. Pray us your name. Amen.
name.
Amen. Amen. Hey, I'd love to hear from you guys about some of the questions that I had sent out in the email. You guys all get those and get a chance to think through that. Nathan, how about you?
Say that again.
I sent out an email on Monday with some questions.
Well, I don't remember Jason, I don't remember all the exact questions, but I think, if I remember right, what was my plan for Scotty? Do I know of any other people that are potentially getting close to being CTs?
I mean, these are good questions. Wasn't on the list, but so I'll just we'll just start with you, just kind of where you're at, Nathan. So the questions were, how'd the spring go, specifically leading your team at CTs? What worked, as you're thinking about the team of guys that you're, overseeing? What worked? What could we do as an organization to help make it easier for you? And then what didn't work? What can you change for the future? That was the first question.
Thank you.
John, Jason, can you hear me?
I can now, yeah.
Okay. For me, my list looks a whole lot like I tried to set up a Zoom call with all my guys and gals that are on Scotty with me and try and relaunch our group, because most of them have only done about 2% of the work.
Yeah.
And try and reintroduce how we're doing it. And it's May, so I'm going to try again. I don't think they understood what they were signing up for, and so us trying to get back go on and discuss what we've learned already, and decided not to. But I feel like he's.
Hey, Nathan, we're only hearing about every like 5 words. Hopefully you'll get back to your office soon and we'll come back to you. Hey, Tyree, was that you that jumped on?
Yes, it is.
All right. Welcome, bud. Glad you could make it.
Hey, good to be here.
All right. So, Nathan, we'll come back to you because couldn't hear hardly anything you said. So the question was, how'd the spring go when it comes to leading your team of CTs? What worked? What could we as an organization do to make it easier? What didn't work? So, Nathan, we'll come back to you in a minute, although it looks like your feed's gotten better. Jeff, Josh, Tyree, any of you guys like to type back in?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the only one experiencing this, but seems like my guys are just extremely busy, and kind of like when it comes down to having set times, they all know that there's a time, and they're all like, "Hey, sorry, I can't make it." So it's not like they're like ignoring it. They're hit me back with, "Man, I'm sorry, something came up. We had this meeting," and then time goes by, trying to reschedule, and then it's the next month, and just like extremely busy. I guess I don't. Part of me thinking, like, do I specifically need to add something of more value when it comes to it, to kind of give them that extra oomph to try to attend? Because some things are just, it comes down to like it's part of their job. You just have to do it, and I don't know. I feel like I'm the only one that is like having this problem with their CT. It's kind of like embarrassing to admit, because I don't know if it's a me thing or if it's just a season of their life type of thing. And I reflected back when I was a youth pastor of how I know I needed help, but I didn't think I didn't have time to get it. And so I don't know if that's what people are falling into. And I don't know how far to push on it. Hey, I really need you, to do this, to connect. You need this. Don't know how far to push in that area. So I don't want to overwhelm them as far as the CP program are. So they're great people and they're killing it. Like they're doing the 7 values, their gospel advanced ministry, like they're doing that. But just the time that we connect, it just hasn't been working.
Yeah, it's definitely Tyree, and you're saying that's been pretty consistent through this whole spring. It's not just like a summer thing.
Okay. Yeah. So just through the spring. Now we do have a time set now for this month, so we'll see how that works. But then there's VBS missions trips. There's a whole nother part of the calendar.
Yeah, it's Super Bowl season for your industry.
Tyree, I don't think you're alone on that, man. I experienced pretty much the exact same thing.
Okay. Now I'm able to connect like one-on-one with them. One-on-one. Obviously, because that's a smaller amount of people. Yeah, and just able to hit them up through a text message or Facebook Messenger and grab about 5 minutes with them. But that quality time that we had together on the phone, that I don't have that with this group.
Yeah. Yeah, I was able to
but
connect with like one.
We're still connected. Like we still know each other. We're still doing it. We just don't have that meeting time. Like we don't have it. We have a relationship. We just don't have that conversation like that.
That is a hurdle we got to try and figure it out nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Josh, what has your experience been like with that issue?
Oh, I was talking several times, not knowing that I was muted. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it was good.
I was saying, I wanted to say the same thing that Jeff said, that Tyree, you're not alone. I feel very similar in my experience. The difference has been, I think for me, the best times we've had were when we made an effort to get together. And there's only, it's just 3 of us, you know what I mean? But even scheduling out for 3 people seems to be a really difficult thing. Season of life, having ministry, figuring out. And then again, I don't know. I don't know how to navigate, even what we should go through when we miss a meeting, you know what I mean? And then we're like trying to play catch up. And I'm like, okay, there's books, we need to be doing, but I also want to just make sure you guys personally, with your own cause circles and, that we're being before we're doing, and we're actually living a gospel advancing lifestyle. That's just kind of where I've landed, that if we can at least do that together, and make sure we're not getting off base personally, and just getting in this rhythm of, I've got youth group, then I've got the Dare to Share stuff, then I've got, all this stuff, and forgetting why we're doing it, so that's just where I've been, and that's about all I'd say we've accomplished, is just kind of keeping each other accountable, with my guys. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I'm sorry, Jason. Can anybody remember back then what they felt like when we were in the CP program? Because I kind of remember thinking like this was a big deal, like to be in this thing, and I kind of made that just exaggerated effort. Like there's times where even like I literally lied and said like I had to go to a meeting. I couldn't do this. I gotta go to a meeting. But it was a meeting. It was with you guys. But like I was like really, really intentional with like connecting with you guys during those times. Did anyone else think that way? Like it was like something like you kind of had to get to.
Well, I definitely felt that way for me. And I also felt like there was a lot given and encouragement that was put into that, which was super encouraging. And to be a part of the point of the Spear was a big deal to me.
Right. So I wonder if we haven't sold the CPs on that. On that, like this will be a sacrifice. Like you will have to say no to some stuff to connect. I don't think personally I have done a good job. I think I've been very sympathetic and, maybe overly compassionate and made excuses. But I definitely don't feel like I sold them on, this should be a top priority. Like connecting, doing these things.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe something that I'm not doing is presenting that value, because I agree, Tyree. I remember when Jason first asked me, like, to be a CT, I was like, are you sure? Like, you want me to be like, I feel like, but totally like overwhelmed with like honor and feeling like this was a big deal. And I do, yeah, I totally see that not being, again, I'm not inside their heads, but maybe what I'm giving them when we're together is not, you know what I mean? Like that's part of the reason it's not a big deal. It's because it doesn't have that same gravity, and maybe, that's on me, or us.
Right. Yeah.
Well, as you guys know, because we've talked about it some, this last group of certified trainers, the guys who you are overseeing, we had basically lowered the standards of what it meant to be a certified trainer, in the sense of they had to simply have been leading a ministry that had demonstrated the impact and the outcomes of a gospel advancing ministry, as opposed to in previous years, there had been a sense of like, are you beginning to replicate yourself, was a piece of it. And then the other one was kind of the ability and the competency to train with kind of a higher level of like competency. And we never really looked for either of those two things. Not that they're not there in many of the guys that have been recruited, but when we switched gears a little bit and kind of felt like, man, if the certified trainer program could grow and be focused on just simply coaching and training a few other youth pastors in your community, that would enable us to reach the 30,000 gospel advancing ministries, basically what is now our Scotty facilitator, what that role is. So what I'm hearing is, kind of what we've been wrestling with, and now it's kind of rubber meets the road. So the desire is to revamp the onboarding process and the vetting process of what it means to be a certified trainer, in a lot of ways returning to that same sense, that you guys have been talking about, like, Josh, whenever you got onboarded, as well as with many of the rest of you, that sense of, man, like you're gonna have the opportunity to represent Dare to Share from the stage. You're officially branded in that way, and all that comes with that in the way that you guys were recruited. So we want to return there, but now what we have to figure out how to do is take this group of men and women that have been recruited with lesser expectations and try and infuse those expectations of what the CT program used to be, knowing that that's where we want to bring it back to. So,
right.
Yeah, so it's, these are definitely some pretty significant, issues that we definitely need to wrestle to the ground. Jason Lamb, you obviously were recruited in this last batch of CTs and are now our collective boss. So I mean, just kind of hearing, obviously you and I have talked quite a bit, just CT strategy. I've shared with you a lot of where I think we need to go. Hearing from these guys, what's kind of your initial take on maybe some kind of course corrections? How could we, I don't know, I just like to hear what your thoughts are.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. Well, and to validate kind of what I'm hearing, I had an interestingly and similar experience with the CT retreat this last year. It was the first time coming on board officially as a CT. And it was interesting because I felt like with the position I was in with the campus ministry that I had been the executive director of, which came with a network of 12 to 14 youth leaders that I was leading and multiplying these campus ministries, that it was that type of caliber that was required for the CT program, much the banner that many of you have been carrying of leading networks and having influence over several youth leaders. And so I at least had that impression coming into the CT retreat, but then it was interesting just getting to know some of the guys there, and even rode down with a youth leader who was a sharp kid, but a kid literally just a few years out of college. And he was excited about GAM and intrigued by the CT program, but wasn't even in a network, let alone needing a network, wasn't in a position of influencing other youth leaders. So it just kind of struck me that was interesting. And so I observed some of what you guys are sharing. I think, the key things that I've jotted down is, what's the value proposition of the CT program? What makes this group so special and unique that somebody would want to give that time to maintain that level of commitment? And it's interesting because you all have shared that you came into the CT program realizing what that value and value proposition was, even though we may not have that stated right now. And so it's kind of within the team, the MTs that we are, how can we help identify what that value proposition is to help strengthen the overall CT program? What was it that made it so special, made it so unique? Why was it that when you felt asked, Josh, to be a part of this, that you were like, am I even qualified to be a part of this? And so I think there'd probably be great opportunity for us to brainstorm and collaborate what that is, try to package that so that we can all, in similar language, reflect and represent what it means to be a part of this tribe, what it means to be part of this collective. And Jason, you and I have talked that kind of re-raising the bar of the CT program. As I've been processing it, feels like we've diluted the brand, if you will, of what the CT program is and what we expect. And so obviously there's this group that's a more elite level master trainers. And then within the 40 to 50 CT that we have, and I can't put numbers to it, but for argument's sake, probably half to two-thirds are this upper level CTs that are training, that are networking, that are influencing and replicating. But maybe there are as many as a third of that CT group that are not living to that expectation, maybe didn't even realize that's what the expectation was. And so you kind of, as with anything in life, we play to the lowest common denominator. And so we've got this CT program that probably, for the most part, has really high caliber leaders within it, but because there's enough that don't understand the commitment, what's involved and what's required. I don't know how else to say other than it feels like the brand got diluted a little bit. And so I don't know if it's a step as formal as this is a brief job description of what it means to be a CT, but I think outlining what the expectations are, Tyree, to your point, to say this is what's expected. There is going to be some sacrifice. There is going to be some level of, needing to show up to that. And I say that acknowledging that, Tyree, I was probably the bane of your existence through the winter of not being able to join some of those East Coast CT calls that you were coordinating. And a lot of that was just in the throes of being a church planner and leading a campus ministry. And I say church planner, I was essentially, in hindsight, killing the church plant, which has led to my transition. But anyway, all that to say, that there's that balance and that reality of what are the other priorities in life, but then how do we help people realize this is a priority worth making sacrifices for, that it's worth saying yes to this and no to something else. And so I think that I would be curious to hear from you guys to better understand what was it that was so intriguing about the program? What was the allure to the CT program that was, man, I'm getting to step into and be part of something special and unique? And like, what was that draw? What was it that made the program so attractive or sexy, or however you want to put it? Like, what was the I can't believe I get to be a part of this? What was that for you, so that we can begin to communicate that out and let people know this is what you get to be a part of?
Well, I think for me,
that's good.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tyree.
For me, I think it was because knowing that there wasn't that many involved in it, that was almost like, wow, I'm in something and not a lot of people are in. I was asked by Greg, so that made it big.
Yeah.
And when he told me about it, like, he expressed like how great this opportunity is. So like he voiced how important it is. And so I'm thinking, like, now what the new CPs are probably hearing is, if you have $500, guess what? You're in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you have $500, you've been to a thing that we did, and you know GOSPEL, and that's cool to you, man, you're in, man. You're in. And that's as honest as I can put it.
That's good. I appreciate it, man. Yeah.
I would kind of mirror that a little bit, man. The thought of being on the exclusive team was a huge deal for me.
Okay, so exclusive. Yeah.
The attitude that Dare to Share was entrusting me, and with the potential, that first year we were all guaranteed to be able to do one of the Gospel Advancing networking events with with one of the main stage guys. That was that was candy, but like there was a lot of prayer that my wife and I put into becoming a CT when Jason had mentioned it. And so for me, it was a big deal, and yeah, it was some sacrifice, and I was excited to do it because there was potential to continue to move up in the program, and at the same time, there was an incredible honor of being bestowed the rights to be able to use the material and to be able to promote that and to be commissioned, I guess, of sorts, to go and do it.
Yeah, that's awesome, Nate. Thanks for that insight. Is Nate okay, or does it need to be Nathan? I can't.
Either one's fine. I don't care.
My younger brother is Nate, and so I remember having that conversation with you at the retreat last December. I just couldn't remember the answer, so I digress. Poland and Edward,
I think I think like even with the CT program, like obviously I don't want to throw anybody away, but if there were like tier levels to it, where you have certain access to certain things, and so maybe not every CT gets access to a certain type of resource, and that's something that just has to be earned. Maybe when they come in, knowing these are the calls. These are not I don't want to say calls just for calls' sake, like we want you on the phone, but things like these are the moments that we want to add value into your life, so these are important.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to do this, this is what we need you to be committed to.
That's good.
And I don't know if we could put a cost into it. So, like, if they make a call, they get X amount back for their next membership, or to pay back. Like, I don't know how we want to word that. Or maybe we just, like, up the cost by $120, and then every thing they make each month, they get, like, a $10 thing back if they go back to the retreat. Just some type of incentive that says, like, these times to connect are, like, extremely important. Not just important for me because I want to talk to them, but, like, I feel like there's value that they're valuable, and they need to hear that, and they need to be poured into. And I believe they desire to be trained. They desire to be equipped. They just don't have the time. And whatever is the least resistance on my calendar is going to be the thing that gets dropped.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Jeff Poland, Josh Edwards, let me hear from you guys, man.
All right. I echo both of those things. Those are totally, exactly what I would say. I would also be curious as to, I'm going to say what I'm thinking, and then I'll backtrack and tell you how I got to that point. I'm curious as to how much time Dare to Share put into praying over those CTs and like for the program, because I would say in my own life, and I'm thinking of each of you on this call and everyone who's a master trainer, and I feel like God just did a work in us, and the Holy Spirit was like it was something the Holy Spirit was doing in our groups, in our lives personally, and then it was like this was like a push, and it was like an accelerant of like man, here now there's this opportunity to be a part of this on an even greater scale. And so that's why I ask about the prayer, because I wonder, I'm thinking of how much time I'm spending praying for the CTs that I'm over, and it's not a lot, and I'm thinking like that was a very evident part and a very real part of those calls that we had, that I think was a real impact on me. The amount of time we spent in prayer over those things. And again, it's, you know, we place value on and we do things, you know, we'll say yes to the things when we see value in them. You know, we'll make time, we'll lie about going to meetings if we're Tyree, you know,
Line for Jesus ministry.
Yeah, line for the gospel. I mean, come on. But no, I like laughed when you said that, because I was like, I felt the same way. I would never miss a call. I wouldn't, you know, I'd rearrange everything to make sure I was at stuff. I don't know, a couple of years ago, maybe I would miss my daughter or son's birth for the CT retreat, because I was like, no, I could never, you know. But again, I think it was something personally, and I've heard your guys' testimonies as well, and I think, you know, it was something the Holy Spirit was doing as well, and I think we can't discount that in this process and in this program, just because I think that's a very real part of it as well.
That's great. That's an excellent point. Excellent point.
Yeah, I remember cramming reading the book before we got on the call. Like, I got put it off, and like the night before, I was staying up to like 3:00, like cramming to get this book in, because I didn't want to be the loser.
Seriously. Because you were expected to say something. I mean, you were, and it was, right. Again, it was that level of, like, I'm a part of this. I'm a part of something, something meaningful, and yeah.
That's good. That's good. Thanks, Josh. I totally got that. All right, Poland.
Writing stuff down.
Where are
you at, Jason Lamb?
I am in Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm a winner. That was my guess.
Because this wasn't all that obvious to you.
No, I was trying to figure out the background, actually. And I decided that it had to be a Chick-fil-A because I remember those lamps. Okay. So Tyree said something about least resistance, which I think is true. You know, the things that have least resistance, you know, they can just be thrown away. But I think the opposite is true. The things that have the greatest need get your attention as well. And as I look back to the first year of the CT thing, like, you know, I didn't know if Jason was going to get a hold of me and say, hey, can you be at Southeast Christian, next month? And so, like, I felt like I had to be on my game all the time. I didn't want to do the cramming that Tyree talks about. You know what I mean? So, and honestly, that's just true in my life. Like, the thing that is the greatest need gets my attention. So I do think that there's an extent to which, sure, faithfulness is important. I don't want to minimize that. But I don't know that we've done a great job of really articulating the need. Like, why are we getting together every month? Yeah, what's the point here? I think also part of the reason I have decided that I struggled with a lot of things that Tyree's talking about, you know, kind of feeling the same way that he did, and that I'm probably the only loser in the group that's not doing well. But part of the reason I landed on was I kind of felt like I had responsibility without authority.
Okay.
And I don't know that that's necessarily true from Dare to Share's end, but I think it was definitely perceived to be true from the CT's end. You know, I mean, the reality is, Tyree, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but if you're Greg Steer and you're calling a meeting, your guys ain't ditching.
Right. Right.
So I had kind of the responsibility of holding a meeting like Greg was able to, without the real authority of being able to do that.
Going Okay.
That makes it tricky. You know, there's only so many meetings you can reschedule before you're like, I don't know that I'm really going to put a whole lot more energy into this.
Right.
Well, I have a guy that's yet to make us. I said,
the first meeting already inconvenienced me.
Yeah. Well, I have a guy that's a CT that I know because I met him at a church camp last summer, but he was put on my team and he's never made a call, not one call, and he didn't make the retreat. So at what point does the master trainer, does he have the authority? And at what point does the master trainer need to say, listen, obviously this isn't important for you, and you're out.
Yeah,
In a loving way.
always.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Always.
obvious. Like what? Or you could say, is there anything I can help you with? Is this too much for you?
Right. I didn't make that nice. I just kind of got to the point so we can move on.
I think,
That's funny.
I think along with that too, like, it was a big deal that like the big dogs even prioritized those meetings.
Yeah.
And you got on there, Doug Holliday was going to be on there, Greg Steer was going to be on there, Zane Black was going to be on there, Jason Lowen was going to be on there. I mean, you're sitting there thinking, okay, it's pretty lame that I can't make these meetings and yet all these other people prioritize their schedule. So there's a lot of accountability there.
That's good.
I mean,
That's
even
good.
if they're even prioritizing it. I think there was a real, honestly, as I look at the first year and I compare it to this year and my trying to lead a CT group, I think there was a real lack of a coherent message.
Right.
And I was really hoping that we as MTs would kind of be brought in to like the secret sauce, and then our job would be to get that secret sauce out to everybody else. And I'm sure that happened. I mean, Jason Lowen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing before you guys had CT calls, you touch base with Greg, you touch base with Zane, whoever it was, made sure that they knew what they were supposed to be talking about. There was some level of, hey, this is the overall message we're trying to communicate.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's really been the reality this year on an MT level that I think it would need to be if we're talking about getting the same kind of effect.
Yeah.
This year. And I think the last thing that's on my list is, honestly, I think there was a bit of unclear expectations on my end. All around. I don't feel like I got the expectations clearly enough to where I could even repeat the expectations clearly enough. I mean, some real practical questions that I still have are like, we talked about the brand being watered down, but I've been kind of privy to that since the retreat, whether it was spoken or I was just kind of feeling it. And there's been a real hesitancy on my end, like, how many people do I really want to bring into this? Because something feels awry.
Yeah.
So there's a real disconnect in those expectations, but not just on that level. I mean, with Scotty, I'm not 100% sure how Scotty fits into all this. I'm sure it does. We've talked about it a lot, but at the end of the day, like, I've got this real weird. I'm working with my CTs trying to get them to Scotty, but then I'm also supposed to work with really anybody I can to get into Scotty. And I'm not 100% sure where that actually fits in. And it just, there's a lot of unclarity on my end, which, makes me really kind of gun shy to move forward boldly.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, let me, I realize we've got 5 minutes left scheduled on the time, and I want to respect everybody's time because I know to the point of what has been made by you guys, there is sacrifice involved in this and time commitment. I know you guys have several other things going on. First, let me just say thank you for your honesty and your candor in sharing some of these concerns and sharing some of these thoughts. I will continue to say this as long as we know each other and moving forward. You guys, in my book, have carte blanche permission to raise your hand at any point and say, hey, I see a problem. Hey, I'm not sure how this is going down. I've got a question. I've got a concern. I'm glad we had the opportunity to pose the question to get your feedback today, but just know moving forward, don't hesitate. You don't need to wait for my permission or me or Jason or Gray or anybody to ask you, hey, do you think something's wrong? Like, just move forward with it. Honesty is a high value and a high priority. I appreciate you guys being bold and loving in some of the things that, all the things that you shared today. And I just want to continue to hear that. And so, obviously you guys have all of Jason's contact information. My email address is almost identical to his. It's jasonlamb@daretashare.org. And so, but I appreciate the thoughts. Jason and I will probably both follow up with you guys one off just to dig a little bit deeper on this, but I want you guys to know that I've heard this, I've sensed this from being a part of the CT program the last, I guess, 7-8 months now, but even prior to that, doing some consulting stuff with Dare to Share for the last couple of years. I think the bar needs to be raised, things need to be redefined, clarity needs to be brought to the table. And so just know that that's a high priority for me coming in to try to reestablish that and gain probably what we need to do as an organization and to reestablish some credibility with you guys as to what this program is and how much we value each of you and what we want to empower you guys to do. And not just to the point that was made, I think, Jeff, by you, that yes, you have responsibility, but then what does the authority look like behind that as well? I think that's a really valuable insight. So just know, I mean, it's a value of Dare to Share that we're constantly, continually improving and making things better. And so I appreciate you guys speaking, again, boldly into this. So that we've got some things to work with and definitely have some things to work on. And so I appreciate you guys. Thank you for that. And we'll look forward to continued conversations to this end over the next several months. And as we look ahead to LTC these next couple months, I'm going to be at every single one of them except Austin. So if Austin's the only one you're going to, I'm going to miss you. Paulin, you're going to be at others than Austin, so I'm going to see you. And so I look forward to getting to hang out with you guys and reconnect just because it's been since December at the CT retreat. And Tyree, I'm sorry it took me moving to Denver, Colorado for you and I to actually hang out and be on the phone together.
Yeah. What could I have done differently, bro? What could I have done differently?
Bro, in all seriousness, Tyree, I can tell you without hesitation, there's absolutely nothing that you could have done. I was in a position last year of struggling in the midst of church planning. This year was my first year completely bivocational, holding down 2 full-time jobs. And so, no lie, I remember there were a couple calls with you that it was the one night I got to be at home with my family that week. And I'm just, you didn't do anything wrong, bro. In fact, I was kind of amped up when I was like, oh, snap, Tyree's my MT. He's a cool dude. And then here it is in June, and I'm moving to Denver, and I'm like, I spent more time with Tyree at the CT retreat than I did the last 6 months.
Right.
So, no, please, you didn't do anything wrong. That was just what was cooking in my world. And so I appreciate you guys greatly. And Jason, unless you had any other agenda items or things you needed to tackle, would you guys mind if I prayed us out on this phone call?
That would be good. That was just my first question of 6.
So the good news is, you know what, we'll talk about July, August, September, October, November, and then we'll see each other again.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, Jason, I would definitely echo everything you said. Definitely appreciate
Awesome.
of all you guys' feedback. And yeah, Jason and I got a lot of work to do, getting stuff where it needs to be. Yeah, I think your honesty speaks to how much
notes.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, for the record, after this, I'm still available for another 15 minutes. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
I can hang around a little bit longer.
Can I just say one last thing too? I think we talked about the value or having, Greg and Doug, and we joked about Jason, but Jason, I think you have kind of made this, in my mind anyway, what it is in so many ways. And I feel like I was alluded to some just difficulty or figuring out what your role is this last year. And I think we can't downplay what that has had, the impact that has had on it as well. So I just wanted to say that as well. And just thank you, because for me personally, and I don't know if other people are in this boat too, but I think you've just had a huge impact on this program and my involvement in it. So yeah, thank you.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
We know Greg was there, Zane and Doug, but we know Jason was the brains behind it. Like we know he was the brains facilitating. Like we know that. And I think that maybe you need to teach us how to be that kind of facilitator that you were for us.
That's good.
Well, thanks for the affirmation, guys. I appreciate that.
That's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah, Mr. Lamb, you want to pray us out?
Yeah. Let me pray, and then if the after party continues on, then so be it. But I gotta go put the rest of my house in cardboard boxes this afternoon. Let me pray for you guys. Lord, again, I we come before your throne as brothers. Lord, I thank you for the unity that we share, bound together by your Holy Spirit as believers in the gospel of your Son, Jesus Christ. Lord, I'm so grateful for the soldiers that I got to spend the last hour with, God, the commitment to the cause and being gospel advancing ministry movement makers. And God, that we are not satisfied with the status quo. Lord, there's something that aches deep within each of our souls that burns the desire to see lost people come to faith, to see student ministries transition from entertainment and hype driven to spirit filled, Bible preaching, gospel delivering vehicles. And so, God, I thank you for these men, the commitment that they have made, God, not even to dare to share, but to you, to be ambassadors and leaders in this cause. Lord, I thank you for their honesty, for their boldness in sharing today. God, just incredible insightfulness. And so, Lord, I pray that as we continue to build relationship, God, as we continue to forge ahead, that you would deepen our relationships, that you would strengthen the bond that we share. Lord, I pray for Jason and I, as well as the Dare to Share team, God, that this wouldn't have been an activity of note-taking, but God, that we would heed these words and that you would give us wisdom and discernment moving forward of how to apply this and how to address these things and how to strengthen this program that we all believe in and know that something extraordinary is at work in the midst of this gospel advancing movement, Lord. And so we want to be faithful stewards to the responsibility that you've entrusted us with, God. And so, Lord, I'm grateful for these men. I'm looking forward to getting to hang out with them at Lead the Cause this summer. And God, even already looking forward to the CT retreat this December. Lord, we love you. And I'm humbled and honored to serve alongside these men. Thank you for their time and their commitment, God, who they are in your Son, Jesus Christ. It's in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And bless you guys. Love you dearly. And we'll look forward to the next time I get to see and hang out with each of y'all. Be blessed, guys. Take care.
Adios, guys.
All right, I gotta take off too. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Stay well.